All right, we're live. And actually, I'm hardly on the camera. That's all right. Welcome.
Can't see it this time.
Well, I put it closer so I can monitor a little closer.
Ah.
But anyway, welcome to episode
Oh,
23.
Can't see my look.
Well, you look perfect, but you're almost right in the middle. I'm actually going to just spin this camera just a hair because
Technical difficulties.
Already.
There we go.
oh, now we're good. You don't need to see a ton of me. As long as you can listen to me. Episode 23. And again, we have another guest, a local artist, Mark Kromer.
Mostly local.
Mostly local. Well, lives in Wyomissing, but still art wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Grew up in
Denver. Grew up in Ephrata.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Ephrata High School.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ephrata High School grad. Boom
Back when
out.
he still carried, a rifle and a jug of beer.
Yeah. With a coonskin cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, he is here.
What's that?
The pipe.
Yeah, the pipe. Yeah.
The pipe.
He's here first and foremost to discuss his art, and then we'll probably chit chat about some other stuff as well. I'm going to turn it over to him, and he'll probably introduce himself, and then we got a couple finished pieces here that we're just going to hold up, and hopefully you'll be able to see them, and then we're going to move them out of the way so we don't. He also brought along a concoction for us.
Mark very kind brought a very good
a mixture of homebrew coffee,
Yep,
whiskey, and what else?
It's just like a sea salt espresso martini mix.
Okay, all righty, whatever.
Sweeten it
So
up.
he
I do
like
a
all
cocktail.
good guests do, he brought us something to drink.
yes. And with the espresso, by the end of this, we're going to be running in circles.
Well, yeah,
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
and then we'll be stumbling because of the whiskey. We'll be running and falling by the end of this.
Should
Keep
be
that
good.
camera running.
Actually, he only brought one small bottle, so we should be good.
Yeah. Single serving for each.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't
He's
overdo
he's sort of
He
having
knows
a
when
fun
to
I
stop.
planned ahead so that.
He's eating lunch with us already.
Yeah,
so
he knows when to stop.
All right, we're going to let him give a little bit about his background, show a couple pieces of very, very nice finished work that are laying here, and then we're going to move them out of the way, and then we're going to continue on. So, Mark, let us know a little bit of your background.
Well, grew up in the Denver area, up in the mountains. My dad was a very creative fellow himself. He referred to himself as a whittler. He likes to carve. He used to do in his younger days. He would do larger swans and like Canadian geese, and he would carve with a chainsaw.
Okay.
That's what my question was.
really?
Like knife, chainsaw, so the bigger stuff with the chainsaw.
Yep, and he would just get for the most part scrap wood, drill them with holes, throw pegs through them, and he would just have just uneven plates all glued together. And just get out his chainsaw and go to town on it.
Yeah.
Did he ever do like you see every now and then these people cut down a tree and leave most of the trunk and they carve it into something?
No, never did that. He only did a few things that were large like that. He would rasp them down, use like a hand rasp on them, and then he would take a blowtorch to them, burn off all the loose pieces. That was the main process for it. But he did do a dragon once that was like 6 feet long.
Oh, really?
for the prom, I believe it was for. That was a long time ago.
Does he still have it? Or?
No, they got rid of it not too long ago.
Like
I
sold
want
it?
to say, yeah.
I was going to say, I hope they didn't just throw it away.
Well, yeah, it used to sit in their backyard right where they're at.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's just sitting at a little sitting area. It was a 6 foot long gold dragon just sitting outside in the weather.
I've seen some of his work, and
Yeah.
wow, he's amazing.
Yep.
So you got this honest. Like this is just, after looking at your work, it's amazing how you do this. So go ahead. You grew up in Denver.
Yep. My brother, obviously, he passed away, but he showed all over the country. He's shown overseas. I mean, he was phenomenal.
Okay.
He was very good at, working with graphite and pencil, like I prefer to do. And he kind of mastered that at a young age and just was able to basically do whatever he wanted to do after that. But yeah, I wanted to make art when I was in kindergarten.
All right. Well, that's At least you figured it out early.
Well, you know, and I laugh because I'm like, wow, I'm so thankful that I knew what I wanted to do with whatever time I had to do stuff. Like, you know, like I was always going to make art, but it was maybe not the best reasoning, but like I remember we were it was just like, you know, you get those big jugs of like, you know, red and big jugs of green and big jugs of yellow, and you just make your own paint. You're just sitting there finger painting. And we were doing these clown and strongmen and like things like that, lions and things from like the circus. And my best friend at the time, he he's making his strongman because his body, his dad was a professional bodybuilder.
Oh, really? Okay.
They lived.
What was their name?
Last name was Stark. I think they were a professional body. I'm pretty sure. His
I'm
dad was
not saying they weren't.
I'm pretty sure, but it's hard to remember. It's a long time ago. But I remember, you know, the teacher came around. She's like, "Oh, that's very nice, Mark." I was like, "Oh, great."
Yeah.
She went over to him and she's like, "Oh, Todd, look at that! So few children know to draw people with necks at your age. That's amazing."
Okay.
I was like, "Oh, you're such a dick." I was so upset. And it was like, I was like, "Oh, I need to do better."
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that was it. That was
missed
it.
the damn neck.
Yeah, I was like, "The neck." Oh, just the praise he got. I was like, I wanted the praise. Why don't I get the praise?
Yeah, because you had a damn neck.
Gold
Yeah,
star coming to him.
Yeah. It was just, it was so childish. I mean, I was a child, so it's fair. But you know, and honestly, at that, my brother, he was about 6 years older, and he was coming in more and more into art, and you know, I would just kind of like follow along with him, you know, followed him wherever he went and did.
I mean, obviously he was very talented, like you said. Yes. I mean, you're very talented, but did either one of you take art lessons, or you just sort of did it self?
Well, when I look at I look at my was it my graduating report card was like a D minus, then like a because I had 5 art classes. And I had like a some form of English class and some form of a social studies class, which clearly the D minuses. You know, I was good at art. I was bad at absolutely everything else on the side. It was just horrible. Nice. We had our high school art teacher was just absolutely amazing. His name was Rick Huck. And, you know, his work was phenomenal. So he was an excellent teacher for a high school teacher. Like just to have so much skill and knowledge was great. And we still keep in touch today. But
and I had him also.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. He was absolutely amazing.
Yep.
What was in his mind, though? Because the pictures that he drew were very abstract. Is that what's a good word for his work?
He would. I hate to speak on what he does, but I'll just say from my point of view, he did a lot of setup work where he would, you know, set things up into like, you know, to create a scene.
Yeah.
He would do a lot of fusing of like animals and machinery.
Yeah.
Or landscape and machinery, or you know, a lot of that stuff. He would like combine a lot of things.
Yeah. That's sort of cool.
Earlier,
sort of like that thing hanging on my wall over there.
Yeah.
He would take stairways and then have them come at like different directions in the picture, and it was really hard for me to follow. Like, wonder what his thought process was when he was drawing this. Like, there were so many things going on.
Well, my brother took me to one of his shows, and when I was very young, I think he was in high school at the time, and it was he had a piece called Lobster Copters. It was these lobsters that were helicopters. I was.
No, that's interesting.
I was amazed at it. I was just sitting there like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was definitely but great teacher. Very calm, very.
Most art teachers are sort of on the calm side, I would think.
Yeah, and today the art teachers at high school and middle school are fantastic.
Yeah.
They're very calm, they're very talented, and they're good at what they do.
You know, when I was in elementary school, my art teacher was none other than Ned Foltz, the pottery dude from Blainsport. Like he makes redware. Like he's famous for that.
Really?
But he was my elementary school art teacher.
Oh, geez.
And you know, one time, here's a little story. Some kid threw paint on me, like with a paintbrush. So I did it back to him.
Yeah.
And didn't the damn guy give me the spanking? And I was just getting, you know.
Really?
How many other people can claim they got spanked by their art teacher?
Yeah, for throwing paint.
And I wasn't the instigator. I just retaliated.
That's usually the way it goes. It's, they didn't see what happened at first, but they sure did get
saw
their
me.
attention and saw you.
But anyway,
You want to be first.
I never. Actually, my cousin used to work for Ned, like
Oh, yeah.
when he was in high school, because he lived right near his pottery shop in
Yeah,
Bladesport.
yeah.
But so he'd spin redware, and Ned would initial it. And
Yeah, initial. Like, yeah, got my name on it. We're good to go. Okay.
So we probably shouldn't have said that.
Well, there's a lot. Well, when you get to really big artists like that, they don't always. These people, they have teams working for some
Right.
of them, so they don't actually always make the art. They just say, "Hey, this is what I want you to make.
Right.
This is
And
what I want to be
approve it.
made."
I'm
And
giving you
yeah.
my approval by signing my
Yeah,
name.
I mean,
on
these
it.
things go for hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of dollars, and they're
yeah.
usually giant sculptures of some sort. And
Yeah.
you have a team on them. You can't do that yourself.
So at this point, you're in high school at Effort. So
Yes.
you moved to Effort. How old when you moved?
Well, I was in Denver, but we were at a spot in Denver where we went to Effort High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
much
Which
you're
is very odd.
They lived
Okay,
up in the
Clay
boonies
Township.
with
like
near the
refreshing
project.
mountains and
Yep.
yeah,
near the
okay.
project.
Different kind of project.
Because my wife,
Yeah.
they're not the North Denver Hood project.
Yeah.
The Project 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were Clay Township. I
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, my wife grew up there.
Yeah.
Too. Well, not grew up. She only moved up there, I think, in 11th grade. So her senior year, she lived up there. But in that same
up until that she was
near
near me.
Starlight Campground,
Yeah. She
refreshing
was-
now.
Yeah. When Clay just had, as when I was a kid, just the scariest principal, because he always wore like a black suit, and he had like really almost bald on top, a little bit of hair on the side, and I may have
Sounds like
fabricated
a
this over the
principal in
years,
Denver.
but it was black on the side. He always wore a black suit with a white shirt and a black tie, and he had a glass eye. And he walked with a limp, and we always said he had a wooden leg. I don't know how much of that story is actually true to this day,
but it could have been.
he would just come down the hallway, and everyone would just like freeze, like, don't look him in the eye, it'll be fine.
Right. At least not his good eye.
Yeah.
You're gonna stare at him,
Everyone
look at
was
his
so well
bad
behaved
eye.
in that school.
So now you're in Mr. Huck's class.
Yeah. I surprisingly didn't have a whole lot of classes with him, but I would always frequent his class. Ron Schlegel was the other art teacher there, and he was such a great teacher too. They were both very helpful. They were very encouraging. When you try to have a career going towards making art, not everyone's very supportive. Like, how will you make money?
Right.
Well, and that
Yeah.
very
And,
much so probably with not just artists, but like musicians, actors, all that kind of thing. Everybody,
Yeah.
everybody's harping on you. Well, make sure you got a backup plan.
Well, yeah.
Do this, do that,
Yep.
or you're never going to make it,
And that's the biggest thing that I would say is, if anyone is making art, the worst thing you can do is have a backup plan. Like, you never have a backup plan, because you're always going to fall back, because it's always going to be the hardest thing you do.
Yeah. And you're always going
yeah.
to say, I do suck at
And
this.
you're
I'm
going to fail more times than you succeed.
Yeah.
In the beginning, so you're automatically just gonna not do it. And that was kind of like is my issue too. Like, I had a backup plan, and so I work slowly through the years to make up where I should have been maybe 10 or 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
Right.
But whatever, it's all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those backup plans are the worst.
All right. You
See what happens.
I mean, you almost it's probably much better to just go all in.
Yep.
And give it a shot.
Yep.
And
when that's what you have to do, you have no problem putting in a 12 or a 16-hour day,
right?
Because that's you're trying to make something that you do take you somewhere, versus like, hey, I put 8 hours in at whatever job,
right,
or waiting tables or doing whatever. Well, I'm exhausted. Maybe I'll take a
I'll
break, and then I'll do a little bit.
Yeah. And so therefore nothing gets done.
Therefore nothing gets done. Yeah. But,
well, and I think there's something to be said for what comes down the line. Like, your father was an artist, okay, and your brother and you, and because you have something in you that you're able to do this.
Yeah.
So you have to have that internal, like, I can't sing. Okay.
Neither can
As
I.
much as I would love to, that's not happening. I did take a art class because that was like one of my bucket lists in Lemon Valley College about 10 years ago.
I only found that out last week.
Yes, I actually did. So this was my picture.
Nice.
That one of the pictures that they had us draw after weeks and weeks and weeks of training. And that looks like a little like a kid's drawing, you know. And I then realized, like, as cool as this is, it's not clicking. I can't the depth perception, and I can't seem to make it the way it's in my mind.
Well, but that was the only thing you ever did. You did one drawing.
But you have to have it inside you to begin with.
You got to learn a little bit.
Too.
No,
There's a lot of
practice. There's a difference between, like you say, if you're playing piano, like you can play a piano, but then there's people that can play a piano.
Yeah.
There's artists that can draw, but then there's artists that can draw.
Yeah.
But in one drawing, you can't master the shading, and I mean that comes with a lot of practice. Obviously.
Yeah. The person who has determination will always win over the person who is skilled or talented.
Yes.
Who has a base talent.
Hard work beats talent every day.
Yep. Yep. And that's what you get. You got to put those hours in.
Yeah.
Hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I start in my studio probably around like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I don't finish till 8 or 9 at night.
Okay.
Now that's not 12 hours of work. That's maybe 5 hours of work, 5 to 7 hours of work with me taking a lunch break, walking the dogs.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe do something physical for myself so I don't turn to pudding. So but I make the effort to be in there as much as my day as I possibly can. That's why my yard looks terrible. It's not good.
Well, and probably because you like drawing better than mowing.
Yeah, right.
I mean that is a valid statement.
So anyway,
so
why don't we lift one of these up anyway? Pick either one.
I'm actually shorter getting off the stool.
And maybe explain what it is and why you decided to draw that, or if it's for somebody.
Well, I don't know what it is.
Oh, you can, do that. Yeah, no, I see that. No,
so Paul can see.
Oh no,
Paul
I
doesn't need to see it.
You're good.
It's our guests that need to see.
Yeah, that's right.
And
no, I can see that well on the. Yeah.
So just actually, this is actually for me.
Okay.
This is poor kid. This is my ex stepdaughter.
All right.
I had her come over to do like a photo shoot. Maybe, it was so long ago now. Maybe 10 or 12 years ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was so long ago. And I just never did it. And it sat, and then she graduated from high school, then went to college. Did she go to college? I don't know. I don't keep in touch with people. I'm terrible for that stuff. But grown ass adult now. But I was like, I had some things I wanted to experiment with, even though a lot of stuff looks probably pretty similar. This actually is watercolor and graphite.
So you combined a pencil and a paintbrush.
Yeah. Well, I mean, watercolor is, you can draw on top of watercolor because it's very flat and fused with like any kind of, or any kind of an ink is flat with that stuff. So if you can see very closely, it's very hard to see, but this is all brown in the hair, some red in the lips. There's like some flesh tones in the skin, but it's so light you can barely see it.
Yeah.
But it was just more of an experimentation more than anything else.
No, that's because normally you simply use a pencil.
Yeah. Yep.
So that was a little bit out of your realm.
Yeah, yeah. And it's everything's baby steps for me when I'm doing stuff. It takes a while for me to go and try anything that is more of a change and stuff like that. But a lot of my, if you look at a lot of my portraits, they're all very, very dark. I like a lot of shadows.
I mean, you are somewhat limited with, and I myself find, like, if I go to the Denver Fair, the Effort Fair, and the art show, I find myself very much more attracted to the pencil drawings than the colorful paintbrush paintings.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating that somebody can do all that different. I mean, it looks like a black and white photograph, really,
Yeah.
with a pencil.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that amazes me actually. But
Well, I mean, that's a lot of times that's where you start is you have to be able to draw very well, from what I heard, to be able to paint. Now,
unless you're
I
like
never went
unless you're
past
like
that.
an abstract kind of, where
Well,
nobody really knows what your painting is
I mean,
until you tell them.
I suppose so. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, there are people who do very abstract stuff. Uh, everyone knows who Picasso
Right,
is.
right.
He could do stuff like this when he was in his teens.
And then he just migrated
And
from that.
well, he's like, I don't have, I'm already, I mastered this. What's the point of doing it now?
Okay.
What can I do? As you continue to master things, you maybe want to try different things. So, you see how abstract his work has gotten
Right.
because of just knowing, everything there was to know, basically. So, you get a lot of artists that who make a living out of it will just slowly, get more and more obscure, I guess, sometimes to
Okay.
trying
Just
new things.
right. Yeah. Just
I've already
keep
done this.
themselves
I'm already
interested.
good at this. Well, I've got time. I don't need the money. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
they stumble onto something that they even make more money doing.
Well, and that's the thing too. If you already have that financial base, what you do to sell isn't as important. It's
Right.
just
Right. Yeah.
you already have stuff that's being sold. Because I think when he passed away, he had like 7 mansions,
Okay.
and he would buy just a giant house, and he would fill it with artwork. And when there was too much artwork in it, he'd buy a new one. And that's
all right.
he had something like that. He's like, because his entire house would be his studio.
Okay.
Just be like if you would take a normal house and just gut it, that would be like his first floor, and
Okay.
then just be like, oh, this is where I make art.
Okay.
Never had a like. Well, I mean, I get he did have studios, but like he in his older age, that's what he did with his.
Now, how about this picture?
All right, so this one. This one was. I did that 2021.
I was going to say that is a fairly recent one, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
And that one was what, 2019? I mean, that was pretty recent too, but I
Well,
never
right.
really messed with it. You see?
Yeah, pretty much so.
Up, down, left, right. Good.
If anything, maybe just front. But here, I don't want to break the darn thing.
Oh, no. Ah, there you go.
All right, you can't see you.
That's
now.
all right. You can just hear the words. It's fine. This
Well, now
one's
you can see it.
this one was called Cage. I actually this is just like a little setup scene, and I did that probably probably at the same time I did the photo shoot for this. I did a whole bunch of photo shoots for that piece because I work off of photos. I can't get.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You
Someone
keep
sitting
mentioning
is-
photo shoots.
Yeah, because
So let's say this picture
Yeah.
that we're looking at now,
Mhm.
you had objects you set up and took a picture of.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
It wasn't just from your imagination.
No. I did like a little setup with it. Did some couple sketches and like, I don't know. I got a bunch of photos. Maybe one day I'll revisit it when I'm ready for it. Wasn't ready to do it at the time.
Okay.
I know don't really have any good explanation for that, but sometimes you still feel like what you want to do, you're ready to do.
Yeah, and you got to do it. If you're not, if
Yeah.
your heart's not in it.
Well,
it's
yeah,
not-
and it's the thing too. If you don't have the right, emotional connection at that time, you're gonna be too miserable
Go
to
through
do it.
emotions, but not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just gonna be a little bit. You're not gonna have the quality of feeling for it. So,
Right.
but yeah, that one was the little duck in that is only about maybe a half-inch tall
Okay.
in comparison to there, and like the little sticks that are around it
Right.
are actually like it's just like the little pieces of incense sticks.
Oh,
Like after you burn a piece of
yeah,
incense,
yeah.
that's what all the ash is. It's
Okay.
just leftover incense.
Right.
So that's
So then you just blew that up.
Yep. I just blew it up at to whatever size it is there. I think it's like 8x12ish or 8x10ish, something like that. So
Yeah, that's about what size. So then you actually have that. Oh, I'm just going to lay this. We might as well just leave these laid here. It's not a big deal. But when you, so you took and laid you work from the photo, or you actually lay the photo down underneath the
Oh
paper?
no. I work off it because nothing's ever the exact same size.
Okay, all right. But it is, you make it, and you were explaining to me a couple weeks ago at Black Forest how you have your own little measuring system, but it's pretty much like to scale.
Yeah, yeah, like hey,
Especially
this is
if you're
supposed to be
doing a
this wide. How
person
does it?
or,
Yeah, there's a lot of things like your eyes are technically an eye apart. Your eyes are in the middle of your head for the most part. Then it's your nose and it's your mouth. You just kind of like start halving everything, and that's just your general. I mean, there's a lot of you know shortcuts like that. Not everyone fits into those clearly.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah.
There was a guy in our art classes. We always joked around because we will say when you're doing a drawing of someone or a portrait of someone, their eyes are one eye apart and his were not. So we always give him a hard time because
I
I'm like,
heard that,
look at
but
that.
now that you mention it, it
That's
does
not
appear
right.
like you are about one eye
Were they
apart.
closer or further
They were
away?
further away.
Further away.
So yeah.
He really did have eyes on the sides of his head.
Well, that's funny because
It's like a lizard.
a friend of mine used to draw pictures of him
missing
with
it.
his eyes literally on the sides of his head, as opposed to just for his own character of him, I guess.
Right.
Man, the pervasive.
So when you
work
consider I mean, when you do this stuff, and I don't know all the terms for artists, but like there's modernistic art. Would you consider yourself a realist?
Yeah, it would be more realism. Maybe something like that would be more considered hyper realism. But even that, it's not exactly. It's you have stuff out of focus in this piece.
Right.
Obviously the stuff in the middle is what's focused. You have your stuff in the back that's not in focus, and stuff all the way in front that's not in focus.
Right. And you did that on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have made it all in focus if you would have decided to do that.
Right. And there's things like that are. I mean, this would because even when I look at like this, like I can look at it and be like, well, it's clearly a drawing, and I like looking at it and seeing that it's a drawing, at least for me, anyways. But like, I don't always. I hate using the term realism. It looks realistic. It looks like the person, and that's the point more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
People can label things as they choose, and that's fine.
Has she ever seen it?
Yeah.
I mean, she knew the pictures were taken, but did she ever see the drawing?
Oh yeah.
Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's frozen in time for when she was that age.
Yeah, and that I have one. I think I may have done like 4 or 5 of her over the years.
Oh, okay.
Just sketches in my sketchbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do that with like a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I have several of the wife. I have one big one of her. That took forever to do. That I have in our house, and I have a bunch of small sketches and sketchbooks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try, and it's one of the things that I have not done that I have missed out is keeping a sketchbook, which is something that I was always told keep a sketchbook. It's good to have a sketchbook. It's good to get those ideas out if you have them. So I try to do that more and more now. And as I get older, it's kind of a nice thing to have around. Can't always work like this wherever I am. So
now, are both of these that you showed here, laying here, are they the original, or are they prints from an original?
Oh no. These are both the originals. I won't frame prints usually. I actually only ever done. I actually have prints of this one.
Well, I
That's
knew
the
you
only
did
one
this
I did
one.
prints. Yeah.
Okay. So you never. Everything you did is one unique. Picture,
Yeah. Prints of somebody that you don't know isn't usually a big seller.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
But
By the way, you could put them in. They could use them to put in picture frames that they're selling at stores, like people.
Exactly. Yeah.
I used to buy picture frames that had neat-looking girls on and just pretend it was my girl.
Well, there you go. I really did. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, we actually do have that at home, though. We have one of them trees, and we left a few pictures of the original that came in there. A beautiful family hanging out.
Yeah.
Who are they?
Yeah.
I have no idea who they are, but don't they look,
second cousins.
don't they look really cool? You know, they look
That's
very
my
happy.
first wife and her kids.
Yeah, you ever come to my house? That's where it's got the picture tree, and it's not all us.
We don't talk about that side of the family.
Yeah.
But many artists, I mean, that's like from what I gather, and I mean, I bought prints from artists that they made 1,000 of, like, or numbered. You know, they number them, and there's only this many.
Yep.
And
there is. I mean, it's a good way for one as an artist to be able to spend more time on a piece, because if you're going to make prints and sell them, you don't have to, like, maybe, hey, you know, I'm doing this commission piece, I'm getting this much for it, but I can take, you know, twice as much time as maybe a print, and I can sell twice as many, you know, and then you're
instead of one.
Right. But the only thing is then do you cater to the public instead of doing what you want to do? You know,
Well,
there's
and,
a give and take
and
too.
that's a very, I mean, that right there is a that statement right there again can be related to, you know, like musicians. Like, and I think in Nirvana, they never meant to necessarily become famous. They wanted to do their music that they wanted to do, but once they became famous, then it was okay. Now they have an agent, and here's what we need to do.
Here's the
and all of a sudden you're not doing what you really want to do. You're doing what somebody else is telling you to do to please the public, and then it becomes no fun.
Exactly. Yep.
So I've seen your work. Somebody gives you a picture of, say, their pets, okay, and you do a drawing, and that was amazing.
No, it really was.
That
really
was.
Well, I think these are amazing.
Oh yeah, they are. I wish I had that kind of talent that you could sit down and start. Obviously, it took a long time. I get that, but wow, to see them dogs there was just.
Yeah, and I always have a people have asked me to do stuff for them before, and I said, okay, it'll be this much, and they're like, oh, wow, that's really expensive.
Well,
like,
what do they think? You're going to sit down and you're going to whip this thing out, and it'll be $1.98. I got to tell you next Thursday.
And this was even like years and years ago. I know I did. I did something for somebody, and I can't remember what it was, and someone saw it, and they're like, wow, you know, how much would you charge? And I told them what I would charge at the time, and they're like, well, that's really expensive. And you know, I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know, it's really not. It's, you know,
it's a one of a kind.
I don't, you know, and everything I'm told is you never base your artwork off of an hourly rate. You sell based on whatever the market is, and you know, I'm not really good with that.
Right. Well,
I'm very bad with trying to figure out what market prices are, just because I spend most of my day in my own little world, which doesn't really associate with reality for the most part.
Well, you really have a lot in common here. You really do.
You know, so
I mean, they're. I mean, you. I don't even know how to say this, but like it's a one of a kind thing.
Yeah.
Like it can't be cheap.
Like, well, yeah, it's not. Know, this piece here was for how small it is. It was about 190 hours.
Yeah.
This was
so even
just
at one
over 100 hours.
So even at $1 an hour,
yeah,
it's $190.
Yeah. Well, you know, and then you throw the framing in.
Yeah.
Art supplies, you know, paper, pencils,
right?
You know, and you know, in general, you know, there's the cost of everything in your house, because everything you use at home is what you use to make, whether that's heat, electric, or cell phone.
Yeah.
You know, and
your home is your office.
Right.
Studio, right.
So it's very interesting. You know, when I give people a price, I'm like, listen, like, first of all, it's like, you know, I take half up front after we've agreed what is going to be done, and I've done a layout, and you know, you say, hey, this is good, and then the other half is when it's done. I was like, so if I'm charging, you know, X amount for, you know, a project, first of all, before I even get to even doing that project, this will probably be weeks. And if I have other things to finish up, it may be months.
Yeah.
So the initial half up front is months away.
Right.
You know, till it gets completed. You know, at roughly 100 hours, I mean, the most I can get is if I work really hard, I think 20 hours a week. You know, so you're already at over a month
For one project.
for one project.
Yeah.
You know, so if someone wanted something small, and I was like, well, listen, I'm going to start it in 2 months, and then we'll sit down, we'll go over everything. A month after that, I'll start it. A month after that, it'll be done. It's like, it's 4 months out.
Right. Yeah.
So there's it's like, okay, well, is artwork expensive? Well, no, I mean it's
Relative.
exactly.
It's
It's
unique.
relative.
It's relative.
Do you need the fanciest cell phone? You know what I mean? Like, you could get something cheaper, but why if you want this one?
Yeah.
It's just what you want.
Yeah.
Plus this will outlast a cell phone. So there's that.
When art, much like anything else, is it's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't know, in art, I would assume, like at some point, like I say, his abstract stuff, I wouldn't pay 3 cents for that.
Yeah.
Because I have no interest in it.
Exactly.
But somebody apparently
Yes.
thinks it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
But again, it's got a name connected to it.
Yeah.
And much like anything else, I mean, for your name to become a sought after name, that's all about being in the right place at the right time, kind of.
Yeah. It's also an awful lot of FaceTime out in public. I mean, not public, but in galleries. But now you get in galleries, and and there's so many stories of people who get, you can get associated, if you're in a portrait work, you can get associated with some company that would do portraits, like where they basically get hired out to do something. Like people go to these companies like, hey, I want portraits. Pick an artist.
Okay. But then again, you're not really doing your own thing then.
Well, when you do portrait work, you do have a certain, you like doing that thing.
Okay.
And that's your thing. You know what I mean? Like, I like doing portrait, but I also like doing other things, but I prefer my portraits to be a certain way. So, I want someone to be like, hey, I want this portrait,
done.
How would you do it?
Done by him rather than him, because I like his style better than his style.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever done, instead just, lead pencil, have you monkeyed around at all doing colored pencil?
I mean, everything is, for me, it's anything black and white, like ink, charcoal,
so
oil-based pencils, just all black and white stuff. I do like, colored pencils. That's something I might mess around with at home, but it's more for. I mean, if something comes across, I'm like, hey, this is going to look really good if I do it this way, then that's what I'll do. But
you know what I find really interesting, and more, I mean, this was more Photoshop kind of thing, but I really think that when you have a black and white, a total picture of black and white with just pick out one thing on it and make it in color, like a certain, you know what I mean? Like say on that picture, if your ex-stepdaughter, whatever she is, was holding, say, a rose or something.
Yep.
And have the rose be sort of a very standout red color.
Right. I mean, not the dulled down red that's already.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just one item on a photo that you like, because I've done that already, just monkeying on like Photoshop.
Yeah.
Where I'll make everything like a grayscale, except leave one item be in color.
But you're definitely highlighting that item.
Right.
It would take your attention away from the other stuff. If that's your intent, that's fine.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So that's your... in relation to that's kind of like this one where everything's out of focus except for the piece in the middle.
Yeah. Which
it'd be kind of like that.
Then it draws your attention to the thing.
Right.
Focus.
Yeah. And the thing with that is that it'd have to be the main part of it, I guess, too. Yeah. For me to want to do something that would make it stand out. And, I've started using more like, watercolor bases and stuff.
What I do, now that you say that, like the background of both these, like the area behind that girl, or even like this background right here, is that pencil, or do you use watercolor to fill in the background
No,
before you start drawing?
That's just pencil.
That whole thing is pencil.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You know, like these. I know certain areas, like especially like this background here. You know, I probably will go over it like 4 or 5 times, just because I either can't get it right, or you know, I everything is a minimum of 2 layers. Whenever I draw, I always do like a base layer, where everything is horizontal, vertical. Sorry, all lines are vertical. And then I just fill in as I over top of that in another direction, just
Okay,
because
so
whatever's
random,
comfortable.
yeah.
Like this
So
was all done before you drew her.
no, that was the last. My background is usually just the last thing I'll do because it's the least.
Really?
It's the last thing to do. Yep.
I mean, I look at her hair here, the little pieces of hair over there.
Mhm.
Like you would have to go around that hair and
Just
then
go right over it.
highlight it.
It's already darker than the background, so it won't even show up. And then I can just highlight over if it dulls down a little bit. So your graphite is basically like stone, like a mineral. So it doesn't really fade or diminish really over time. So it's just gonna stay.
Well, I would assume the reason that you do I'm going to say the detailed part of your drawing first, and then fill in the background, is if you screw up on the detail, you don't have all that wasted time of the background to start over with.
Yeah, and a lot of times, depending on what I'm doing, I will always, and you can look on any of my social media pages that show works in progress. If you look at it, it's almost all left to right, and it's almost all top left corner to bottom right corner, because I'm right-handed.
Okay.
So when I'm working like this, even so on this one, I mean, I don't know if you can really see it, but like right on these edges here, it's nearly impossible to see unless you get really close to it and look at it. What happens is I drag graphite as I draw. It'll be on my hand. My whole arm will be black at the end of a long day, or So what happens is I just slowly drag it along, and if I don't constantly remove it, it gets really embedded into paper, and you just cannot get it out.
Okay.
Like you can erase, but you can only erase so much.
So you work in the direction so that your hand is not smearing what you already drew.
Yeah, I'll do lots of setups. I'll get everything set up the way I want it. I'll start laying in base layers and everything like that, and then I'll do my best to go from left to right. I have like a big flat piece of board that sits like a quarter of an inch off of whatever drawing surface I have, that if I can't do that, I can set that down and not ruin anything.
Okay.
But even that, then I'm just in a different position. I'm so stuck in my ways when I do something that it throws me off, and I'm like, all right, now let's be an adult and adjust to a new situation.
I mean, I guess to some degree, with the pencil, I assume you do some erasing, or you just like if you screw up, you erase and start over. Like with a paintbrush and a painting, if you screw something up, it's probably hard to.
I just go right over top of it. It's
just
repaint
over.
Probably way easier.
Oh, really? Really?
Well, the problem with drawing is that you have to be very. For me, I have to be very light when I lay things out, because I don't have that level of practice that a lot of people do, where they can lay things out quickly and get the proportions right. I struggle with that because I don't do it as much as I should, and if I'm doing portraits like this and I do 4 a year, I'm not doing a whole lot of quick layout, and I don't spend a whole lot of time. I only have so much
like
time.
Bob Ross, who can pound them out.
Bob Ross used to do a preliminary painting. And
you did tell me that.
Painting, and then he would do one at the end.
Yeah.
And he would donate. I think he was donating one to a charity or something like that, or he would sell it and donate to a charity. One, I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
But even like the people at some of these, I don't know, like local event things where you can sit in a chair and they'll quickly draw your character.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I mean, no, but they're pretty amazing too.
Well, yeah, that's like that's the time put in to do something like that. Like they learned how to do that very well. I've learned how to lay graphite smoothly.
Well, and the other, think about in the
this,
old days with like cartoons.
Yeah.
Where you had to make, each frame was a different piece of paper.
Yep.
But whoever was drawing that had to draw, for the most part, every time he drew Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
He had to look the same.
Yep.
Like identical almost.
Well, and they have like the sheets have for animation like the like they're like whole paper, so it all sits in there. So when you're drawing, you're just lifting up and moving it just a little bit. So you have the what it looks like already in front of you. You're just moving it out of the way, moving it just, and you're kind of like flipping back and forth like this a lot of times.
Well, right, but you're still
yeah,
recreating the
Yep.
same image, pretty much identical
Yep.
time after time after time. Which, if I could draw Bugs Bunny once here and once here, and they're probably not going to look anywhere the
Yeah.
same.
Well, it's if you ever watched the Simpsons, the
Okay.
very first season of that maybe, and then go to maybe one of the later seasons. They're different characters, not 100% different, but you can see they're a little bit off if you
Well,
look at
I
them.
just heard today or something. I mean, what is it going to be? Season 32 or something like
Jeez.
that? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's somebody started to do that, and then as they got more and more used to doing it, it became now everyone looks like this. And
Yeah.
it's consistent.
Yeah.
So that's with anything though.
So
I mean, like,
I've kind of experienced that being in school, that it seems like boys, I kind of wish the art teachers would somehow teach the boys specifically something to draw other than penises on every freaking bathroom, stall, table, chair.
are you referring to teenage boys?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's not
like
gonna change.
real. That's not going to change.
No,
Yeah.
that's not. No.
Oh my gosh.
That'll never change.
And in my career, to see who did the damage on here, and never in my career did I think I would be comparing penises. Pictures of penises. Like
who
we
draws
know
it
who
better?
drew this one.
Yeah.
Now we got to compare it. Did he do this one? And it's like,
Yeah.
Is this what my career comes
Yeah.
down to? I'm comparing
Yeah.
pictures.
These four look
Really?
similar.
Yeah.
This one was done 4 times by
Yeah,
the same
by the same
person.
guy.
Look at the curl on this one. Like, oh my.
And yet none of them have become professional artists.
No.
No, that's weird. Well, you don't know that.
Well, maybe they do. Maybe they did in the
I
underground,
don't
in the
know.
black world of art.
Well,
Please don't tell me you were like the penis drawer.
No. Well, maybe that.
if I was, I would never admit to it. But
There you
no,
go.
I was not.
He just didn't know how to draw necks. That was
Yeah,
right.
I just didn't know how to draw next. That was the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he
Yeah,
corrected
no.
that after kindergarten. That was,
Yeah,
man,
it
there's
was the
excellent
first thing on the list. Like, all right, well, it's time to.
And all of a sudden, the
Buckle
neck
down.
was the big focus of your neck.
Yeah.
A little head, a little body, but a neck.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you're on Facebook.
Yep, Facebook, and Instagram, and
LinkedIn? Like that's more of a business kind of thing.
not LinkedIn, but I do have a website.
Okay.
They're all on both sites. They're all both.
Okay.
You click on them, we'll take them right there.
Yeah.
I'm not really tech savvy, so it's a boring website, but there's stuff on there.
Now, do you ever put your stuff like I'm guessing it's been in some kind of shows already, but do you like stick something like this at the Effort Affair to get your name out there?
Well, technically, you probably can.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe
back.
not. Maybe not.
Back
We
then
have
when-
it.
in the past, probably.
They do stuff like that up my way. They just did something the other week. I'm like, oh, that's great. I wish I knew about that. So the week after it was over. And I did I've only ever done one show at the Mulberry Gallery, and it was the year that was the month that my wife and I got married.
Mm.
So I actually had a show of artwork there for our wedding.
And Mulberry is
It's in Lancaster. It's an art
Oh,
gallery, and they do
okay.
like a wedding
Oh,
venue
yeah,
in Lancaster City.
yeah. I've been in there.
Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
And that was really nice. It was I was very pleased. Turned out really good. But don't really sell anything. So again, it's all
Or do you
portrait
ever,
work.
I mean, did you ever set up like at the Livitz art show or Mount Gretna or anything?
No,
like that?
I for something like that, I feel I would need more print work,
Okay.
just because.
More to say, yeah. You
Something
couldn't
that-
go up there with two things to show.
Yeah, no one's gonna like if I take a piece in and like, hey, here's something for $1,000.
Yeah.
Like, well, they're probably not there to spend $1,000 on one thing.
Nah,
More so, maybe some prints of other
Right.
things.
$30 a piece or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I know. Like Effort Affair, you can't be a professional,
Okay.
and you're getting paid for your work. So I mean,
I don't
but
make
back-
a living off of it.
Well,
Is
that's
that
a good point.
is that?
Oh,
I mean, is
okay.
that
Yep. Well, that's a good
distinguishing
point.
factor?
Absolutely. Like I
So you're an amateur
do
artist.
not make enough money selling art to claim it on taxes.
Okay.
So then you're not a professional.
Nope.
In the sense
So
of the
you
In the
word.
sense
could,
of- But here's the thing: most professional artists are not professional artists.
Yeah,
But if you
yeah.
go by that sense, there's a lot of people
Okay.
who struggle to make art and just they can't make enough
Right.
money to that. It's not an easy thing to do, and there's a large swing nowadays with social media that to sell artwork on social media, and it's more than anything, it's about advertising. I feel, and
Well, social
that's
media
a little
is
upsetting, but
is,
it is what it is.
I mean, even for my trivia, I mean, social media is the best form of free advertising because the whole world has the opportunity to look at your stuff, and you don't have to pay a penny to put it on there.
Yeah. I mean, you can run ads for stuff.
Right.
You
But
pay a little bit more and it hits more people.
yeah,
And I forget what it was. They said for Facebook, I think it's like 400,000 data points or something like that they store on people, on a single
Okay.
person. So when you're going to sell something, you can like I want people like this guy's profile, so copy this guy's. I want people to like this lady who also would be interested in buying stuff. Copy her profile.
Okay.
What they do is they pull that stuff in, and then when you advertise, it sends it out.
Goes
If
to
I
that
understand correctly,
kind of people.
to that kind of
Okay.
people. But I'm terrible with that.
Yeah.
stuff.
Well,
I'm absolutely terrible.
I mean, I just post crap and hope
Yeah.
people see it,
Yeah.
basically. But
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. If it takes you, when you're pouring your heart out into stuff like this, and it takes you a couple months to get stuff together and to do it right. And I've seen your work in other places, and it's like, wow, but didn't realize it. You really do take that
much
time
time
to
to
make it
do it.
right.
Oh yeah.
And so you do that much time into it as to the price that you end up charging.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, how is that worth? It should be worth even more because it's just absolutely wonderful.
But to find the person
you
willing
gotta
to
have the
pay
right
that,
person, and so I understand what you're saying. I just didn't realize it.
I was told many times I do not charge enough.
Yeah.
Which is great to hear, but I'm also very bad at advertising, and there's always someone to buy something.
Yeah.
You just have to find that
Find it,
person.
yeah.
right?
And there's always people that will be willing to spend money. You just have to find them. You have to find those groups. I mean, there's
Yeah.
people, who only have. I was reading an article on this girl who has like 200 followers on Instagram, and makes 80,000 a year selling art.
Mm.
Because
So it don't take a ton of people. It just takes
the right
people with money.
right?
The right people
Yeah.
who collect or want that stuff. Plus
Yeah.
there were other outlets to sell at, but yeah. So I mean, I'm very bad with my website. I do put things up. I will put things up for sale on there occasionally. I just am very bad at doing that and keeping up with it. It's like, well, do I want to spend a half hour or an hour doing that, or would I rather spend a half hour just making artwork? If
Right.
and
So
maybe when I'm done with one, I'll worry about more.
So I've heard of what do I want to say? So if you're a sports guy and you have an agent, okay, and that agent finds you the best deal, okay,
Right.
Is there people out there in the art world that says, look, I'm horrible with the selling part of it.
Yeah.
I'm good at artists. I'm like, this is what I'm making, and you have the connections, and they take
that's
their
just
percentage. I don't know what is there people out there like that?
A gallery representative will do that.
Okay.
Yeah. The only problem is like I forget who I was. I was listening to a guy about his art career, and he was a professional portrait artist, and he was working 12 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day, and he had so many portraits that his mentor growing up, because he was going through a company, told him to stop doing it. First of all, you stop taking commissions through this company. Tell them you are maxed out, and he did, and it took him 3 years to finish all of the ones that he had agreed to do, working 12, 16 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
The company was taking 60%.
Right.
60.
Yeah.
So he was only getting 40%.
Well, and I hear that.
So
I mean,
you sell
okay.
a piece for $5,000.
You're not getting much out
You
of
get
it.
a couple thousand.
Well, even professional athletes, the agents, I've always heard the agents make out way better than
do
the
they?
players.
Okay,
Yeah.
all
Like,
right.
you know, I mean, I don't know. I think if I would like to be my own agent.
Yeah.
And keep 100% of what I do.
Well, yeah. And
Yeah,
that's where you sell everything on social media now.
Well,
you get
that's
to keep
the
all of
best.
it.
But
Yeah.
if they so the rentals that I have, right,
Right.
and houses, I have a rental agent that does it for me. I could save that 8% and put that in my pocket that I pay
that's a
them to
headache.
rent it. But in the end, they know the market. They know
Right,
the rent, and I was always way too low. So that's just one example of how, in certain circumstances, and like an agent
And
would
in real
be
estate, it
beneficial.
makes sense to
Yeah,
me.
Real estate,
uh,
but I just why I said I wasn't sure where that. So it's
Well,
just like the
it's-
sports. Then
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
takes too much. It's
Right.
not
The
worth it.
agent charges way more commission, way more of a percentage than what
They may also be able to price it appropriately though too, and get a bigger chunk. That's the only difference. Like, hey, I can get you this much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take half. It's like you're gonna double my price and then take half, and you're still basically making the same.
Right.
If you're
Potentially.
making
without putting in the time of trying to sell your stuff because there's
Right.
other guys doing it
Right.
for
And then
you.
there's people who are just really bad at that stuff. Like
Yeah.
interacting with others is always can be
Right.
not everyone's strong point. So
Now I got to ask this because the big money maker in today's world for a guy that is good at art seems to be a tattoo artist.
well,
Did you ever think about doing that?
it's a consistent living. I'm zero interest.
Okay. Well, no,
I've designed some tattoos, but
oh, really? Really?
I have not done any of that stuff. I mean, I've designed tattoos. I used to do album covers back in the early 2000s.
For any like big
Well,
name?
no. When I was still in high school, I was really big into comic book art, and it was back in a time when it wasn't cool to like comics.
Oh, okay.
You had to hide your shame. Oh, all the girls left. Oh, let's look at them now.
Yeah.
It was a lot like that. Now it was surprisingly enough, it was the golden age of making comic book art, and that was just before everything went to not necessarily digital, but where people could work wherever they wanted to. It was just before that kind of switch happened. So everyone was flying to move to San Diego to make comic book art because that's where all the big companies were.
Okay.
And I really tried to get into that. And there was a guy who took over the old where Papa John's is, the old Turkey Hill.
Oh, yeah,
It used to be a comic book store.
Now that I never knew.
Yep. The guy
Did you
who
know that?
ran it.
Boy, I don't remember it. No.
The guy who
I mean,
ran it.
I
didn't
didn't
live
live
in
in Effort at the time, but
Yeah.
like, I just
Yeah, the guy who owned the comic book store, his brother owned Video Vibes.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I remember.
So I worked with him on some stuff, and then I worked with some other person, and I worked with this one girl from DC on some stuff. Nothing ever went anywhere. I worked on something with my brother, which was actually really fun. We got like 4 pages in, but we realized, wow, we take way too long. We will never complete anything. And he's like, well, we'll just do like 4 or 5 pages. We'll send it to heavy metal. Never finish 4 or 5 pages, so that kind of like fell to the side. And then a friend of mine had a hardcore straight edge record label called Young Blood Records, and I did some stuff for them. I did their logo. I did a
where
couple
were they
album
out?
covers.
Where were they out at?
Right here in Effort and Lancaster area.
Really?
Yeah, it's a small. It's still going today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it caters more, I believe, towards younger hardcore bands.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about it. I would be, whatever I would say would be wrong. So I won't say something I don't know anything
Right.
about.
No,
But
I respect that.
he would be like, hey, would you be storing something like this? Like, yeah. What do you want? I want this, this, and this. I'm like, that sounds great. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that because I loved working with pen and ink at the time, and so I kind of started to go that direction. So I did a couple album covers. I think I had maybe done like 4 altogether. 4 main ones. I designed their logo, and then I just did a slew of smaller drawings for more like advertising and promotion type stuff.
Okay.
They still come up today on my social media feed. I'm like, hey, I did that.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I did that. And I'm like, hey guys, I did that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
No,
it's
that's
the old guy again. I'm like, oh man. I mean, no, they don't say that, but like that's kind of how I feel.
Right,
Like, oh
right.
man.
But that's neat. I mean,
Yeah, I love seeing that stuff pop up because I'm like, oh man, it was so long ago. It was like 20 years ago.
That's a good
So-
question though about like tattoos, because that has become huge, and the details, what they
Yeah,
do is pretty
yeah.
amazing.
I work off of making lots of mistakes and then correcting them.
so on
So
somebody's skin,
not gonna-
that's not
not
going to
gonna
work.
work. Not gonna work.
Yeah.
My nerves would just be shot.
Okay.
Well, because you got one shot at it.
Yeah.
When you're doing it,
Yeah,
with somebody,
exactly.
you got one shot at it.
And I've designed a couple here and there, and even then I'm like, the amount of time I have to put into designing something is actually quite draining, because of one, I'm worried how it's going to look. One, it has to have design aspects. I'm not good at design aspects.
Yeah.
I
I get it. When I got my tattoo, the artist, he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But he had a routine.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. I'm going to do it outside. And hey, come on out here with me. We'll talk. And
Yeah.
it was his way of like a de-stress, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
All right. He said, are you ready? I said, yeah, I'm ready. He said, I'm ready. Let's go. And then so I totally get that.
Yeah.
The guys that have done it for years and years and years, and he's probably in his late 30s, and he's been doing it since 20s.
Yep.
Still has to have a routine of like, chill out, and now we're going to get it done, because it is permanent.
I feel like having a routine is always fantastic, and I feel really bad when I have to have someone sit for me, or at least I haven't had to do it in a while, but it's like, all right, just relax.
Yeah.
No, relax like this.
Yeah.
No, that's just do this with your hair. You're like, okay, oh, that's good. Now just relax. And I'm like, whoa. And they're all tensed up. I'm like, oh, why aren't you relaxing? And I'm like, oh, because I'm being that person. Oh, my bad. And it's there's a lot. So my routine is to tell people to relax and then stress them out.
You're not relaxing.
You're not
quite
doing it right.
Yeah.
You're not doing it right. So yeah.
All right. Well, we're about out of time here. We started a little early. We're at the 1 hour mark. So if people were interested in contacting you, how would they go about that?
Mark Kromer. M-A-R-K, K-R-M-E-R.
Social media. Okay.
Facebook and Instagram, and website is markkromer.com.
Okay.
Simple enough.
Oh, that's straight. Yeah.
People have had trouble finding it because it's a new website, so it hasn't had traffic enough yet.
Oh,
so I don't know if it'll come up or not if you put that in. But if you go to any like Instagram or Facebook,
you have a link right
yep,
to it.
link's right on there
Okay.
on a page that takes you
Okay.
right to it.
Cool.
That part actually works. I checked it.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, like I've heard in the past and seen in the past, like somebody has something that means a lot to them in a picture.
Yeah.
They can bring that picture to you, and then you can talk about how that may or may not work.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like I will, if I can't make it work out, I'm like, nah, it's not gonna work.
Right,
I was like, no.
Well,
I won't even try
you always
because
want
I'll-
to be honest with your customer. You don't want to say, "Oh yeah, I can do that."
Well,
and then a year later, well, where is this?
Yeah.
I'm sort of struggling with this.
Yeah.
Right. So you
Or
can
you
make
don't
it
do that.
personalized. You can do a personalized picture, with a discussion with you
Yeah.
to see how that might work.
Yeah.
But as I've seen with the dogs, that was amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that meant a lot to them.
That was
and
a
that will
challenge.
last forever. But it looked at the
Well,
end
no,
result.
but
was
the end
absolutely
product was excellent.
I straight up told that person like, yeah, it's not gonna work. Do you have more?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, oh yeah, I'll try and get some. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, let me mess around. I did a couple of sketches to see if I could even make it work
Right.
before I even said, hey, I think we might be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But then again, you don't. I'd rather not do something than do something.
Half-assed.
Well, yeah, not up to
Or-
my own
or-
personal
right.
Something
Something you're not going to be proud of.
Yeah.
And wife always tells me just because you don't like it, doesn't mean someone else doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
I'm like, well, that's true.
Yeah.
But it's still like, well, what do I want?
Yeah.
She's like, it's not about you. I'm like, well, it's a little bit about
That
me.
is
I
true.
feel.
I mean,
You got it.
And my wife did crocheting and stuff, and every now and then would put something on Etsy or take it somewhere. But she would always make, like, I'd say, why don't you just do this? Or she said, well, maybe that, those colors really don't look good. I don't think I'm taking, well, maybe not to you, but so that might be somebody else's favorite color.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and maybe you don't want a tattoo of your dog on your arm.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what a great way to memorialize them with a picture that can last forever.
Yeah.
That's a huge.
And when I do portraits for people, I will prefer to we'll sit down, we'll do a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And we'll sit there, we'll shoot a bunch of photos. If none of them work out, we'll do it again until we get some that work. That's easy enough. Because then you can get it exactly the way you want it.
Right.
And they can have something they like. I can have something that I'm interested to do. So it kind of works out for everyone.
Yeah, I love the dog idea rather than I don't need to see a picture of my wife and I on the wall every day.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure she doesn't want to see me that much.
Yeah.
But
the amount of people who would rather have their pets
hanging
immortalized forever.
Yeah.
What about your kids? Nah, they're fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, that was quick.
And this just dawned on me here, but with like that picture of the dogs, now obviously they bought the original, but if you got into making prints to sell prints, could you not make, like, to speed up the process, do something smaller and then have it blown up to maybe like the size of that blind hanging over there or something? Would it lose too much resolution?
Yeah.
By doing that.
Yeah. Usually when you do prints, you're going to go down.
Okay.
You want things to look
crisper.
You don't want to get bigger. The prints of this are almost exact same size.
Okay. The bigger would be.
Yeah. So I didn't want to go smaller than this when I did them because, and I definitely did not want to go bigger because you will lose that crispness. Plus, you're going to see all the things in there that you blow it up and you're going to be like, oh, that's terrible.
Right.
Why did I even make this piece? Okay. Now I hate myself.
Yeah.
You're gonna
like looking at it under a microscope.
Exactly. You're gonna start picking everything apart and not realizing that that's not even a thing that you can even correct or even do.
Okay.
So it's always better to go down instead of up.
Okay. All right.
And we do thank him.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, that drink was.
Wow,
I really like
I didn't even finish mine yet.
I got a little bit left.
Why didn't the guy bring 2 bottles?
Well, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, everyone's all. I mean, it was about 2 ounces of whiskey.
Oh yeah, but no, it tasted very good.
Yeah,
it had a good taste to it.
Yeah. You put that in a glass of ice with some creamer. And
Yeah.
go.
All righty.
Good.
Well, I'd like to thank Mark for coming on.
Thanks,
I mean, we know Mark from down at Black Forest, but I found out a lot I didn't know about him today, and hopefully all you people too. All right, we'll see you next week. Next week, our guest is Dave Eby, an author and a guy that taught English in China for 13 years, and he apparently was born legally blind. He's going to be on next week unless plans change. Thanks for coming out.
And we are now going to run around the block.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or at least down to Black Forest.
Yeah.